I'm sorry, could you spell the substitute's name?
Limper, Limper.
Thank you.
And it's Brian, and he's a captain with Raleigh Police Department now.
Any concern?
Well, Your Honor, the statement itself there are objections related to the statement itself, but I don't know that now is necessarily the time to raise them, but that's sort of why I was sort of halfway standing up and then sitting back down.
All right, but there's no objection to the witness who, if the witness has knowledge, etc. All right. And any other matters for the defense at this time?
No, sir.
All right, very good. Let's bring jurors out, please. Forced to resume his seat. And Detective, you recognize you're still under oath, sir?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Ms. Shakita?
Detective Morse, I think when we broke for lunch, you were talking about you had made contact with Amber Alberts. Again, who is Amber Alberts, or who did you learn her to be?
Amber Alberts is the girlfriend of Ronald Anthony.
And you said that she was getting off from work about the time you approached her.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you speak with her there at the Walmart, or where did you speak with her?
I spoke with her right there in the parking lot of the Walmart.
And did she agree to speak with you?
She did.
Generally speaking, without telling us what she said, what types of things did you all talk about?
I obtained, obviously, her information, her address, her phone number, her relationship with Ronald Anthony, her knowledge of the computer, her knowledge about this crime.
And during the course of that interaction, did she show you some information that she had about the computer?
She did. I looked at her cell phone, and there were the pictures that I recognized as being the pictures posted on the Craigslist ad on her phone.
What, if anything, did you do once you saw that?
I told her what those pictures were and what they represented as far as this case, and I requested her consent to take her phone and download the data from the phone.
Can you and did you do that yourself, or did you hand it to someone else to be done?
I did
the downloading?
I did it.
And did she agree to let you do that?
She did.
Can you describe for the jury the process that you used to, what you said, download the phone?
Sure. It's much like, it's a machine's called a Cellbrite. It's much like a computer that you have at the cell tower or cell store when you go to switch out your phone, and then you want to transfer data from one phone to the other. I'm using the same device that you would have at a cell phone store. I'm plugging into that cell phone, and I'm extracting that data and putting it either on a thumb drive or a CD.
With respect to what you were looking for, were you looking just for the photographs, or did you dump her entire phone?
I dumped her entire phone.
And did you keep the phone, or what did you do with the phone once you were finished with the cell phone extraction?
I returned the phone to her that night.
You're my approach witness.
Yes.
First, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 38, which was the photograph that I had shown you a moment ago in order to read the serial number better. Do you know where that photograph came from?
This came from Amber Albert's cell phone.
And do you know how exactly that photograph came to be? Was that one of the ones that you had downloaded from her?
It is.
And when
Hold on.
Objection to how it came to be, I don't think that's firsthand knowledge of how it came to be.
I can ask it in a different way.
All right, go ahead, rephrase.
When was the first time you saw that photograph?
In the parking lot of the Walmart.
And when you take the phone and you describe the process by which you use the cell write machine, does it change any of the data on the phone in any way?
No, ma'am.
Can you delete or add photos in any way to the medium from which you're taking them?
No, ma'am.
And so when you make, for example, State's Exhibit 38, that is, you download the data that's now in State's Exhibit 38, is it exactly a copy of the photograph as it was in Miss Albert's phone when you initially saw it and again when you did the extraction?
Yes, ma'am.
And State's Exhibit 39, do you recognize 30? I'll just show you a couple. 39, 40, and 41. Do you recognize those?
I do.
Okay. State's Exhibit 39, 40, and 41. Where did those photographs come from?
They came from Amber Albert's phone.
Okay. And again, were these ones that you would have gotten in the extraction exact copies from her phone?
Yes, ma'am.
And the subjects that's in the State's Exhibits 39, 40, and 41, what is portrayed in those?
The stolen orange laptop.
State's Exhibits 42, 43, and 44. I'll come around the corner here so I'm not in your way. Do you recognize 42 through 44?
I do.
And again, are those photographs that you extracted from Miss Albert's phone?
Yes, ma'am.
And the subject matter of those photographs, what is that?
It's the pictures of the stolen orange laptop.
State's Exhibits 45, 46, and 47. Again, are those photographs from Miss Albert's phone?
Yes, ma'am.
And are they the exact copies of what you took when you extracted the information from Miss Albert's phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Similarly, are they of the orange Lenovo laptop?
They are.
The last two here, State's Exhibit 48 and 49. Again, what are those photographs?
Again, those are pictures that I downloaded from Amber Albert's phone of the orange laptop.
And looking at, and again, are these exact copies of the extraction that you did from Miss Albert's phone?
Yes, ma'am.
All of these exhibits here that I've now shown you, which are State's Exhibits 38 through 49, did you change them in any way?
No, ma'am.
Your Honor, at this time the State would move to introduce State's Exhibits 38 through 49 taken from Amber Albert's phone by Detective Morse of the orange laptop computer into evidence.
Any objection?
You know, just object to the foundation. I believe Ms. Alberts is going to.
All right. Overruled. They are admitted. 37 through 40, 38 through 49 are admitted.
I'm going to now show you State's Exhibit 37, which you originally had indicated was the Craigslist ad that you did the screenshots. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Looking now at State's Exhibits 38, 39, 40, and 41, do those seem to correspond with the photographs that are in State's Exhibit 37?
They do. The 4 photographs posted on the Craigslist ad are these 4 photographs taken from Amber Albert's phone.
And again, did Ms. Alberts consent to allow you to take these images, or I'm sorry, to take her phone and extract the data from them?
Yes, ma'am.
When you were speaking with Ms. Alberts about her relationship with Mr. Anthony, do you know where Ms. Alberts was residing at the time?
She was living at an address in Oxford.
And during the course of your conversation, did you determine whether at any point either this defendant or Ronald Anthony would stay with her?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Once you were aware of that, did you make arrangements to go to her home?
I did.
And why did you want to do that?
There was information gleaned from the interviews that were ongoing, information that led us to believe that there was property at Amber Albert's home. And I want to correct myself. Her address is actually in Wake Forest.
And did you make arrangements to go to that address?
We did.
Her address is in Wake Forest?
I have 4624... 4624 Rogers Road, Wake Forest, North Carolina. It might be in Oxford, but it's a Wake Forest address.
Okay, it's a Wake Forest address, but in Granville County.
Correct.
Okay.
It's in Granville County.
You had me confused for a minute. Prior to going to Oxford, did you make any additional phone calls or have any responsibilities on the 21st?
I did.
And what was that?
Again, interviews are ongoing at this point. Information was gleaned that Sarah Redmond had some involvement in this case.
And so what, if anything, did you do once the name came about of Sarah Redden?
I had a phone number for Sarah. I simply called her and told her that Ronald Anthony and Travion were at the police station, and she needed to come to the police station and talk to us regarding the events that happened at North Hills.
Did she indicate that she would do that?
She said she'd be there in 5 minutes.
Okay. And were you the one who met her at the police station?
No, Detective Gill met with her.
I want to turn your attention now back to the Oxford address or the Wake Forest address of Amber Alberts. Did you, in fact, go out to the search of that house?
I did.
And prior to doing that, did you do the same process that you've indicated before, that is, going to get a search warrant to do that?
I did. I sought for and applied and obtained a search warrant for her residence.
Do you recall about what time it is now at this point in the day?
It is now on May 22nd. It's about 15 minutes after midnight.
Who went out there with you, if you recall?
It was myself, Detective Gill, Sergeant Cashwell with the Raleigh Police Department, and also we are accompanied by Granville County Deputy Seth Bryan.
And why did you have a Granville County deputy go with you?
For jurisdiction.
When you went there, do you recall who was home?
Miss Amber Albert was there. She also has a female roommate, Michelle.
Okay. Did you speak with them at length, or what kind of things were you looking for when you went out there?
I had a list that had been provided to me by Detective Falk of items that were supposed to be at that house that I was specifically supposed to be looking for. Obviously, I did speak with Amber about these items I was looking for, and she pointed me in the direction of nearly all of them.
The items that you were looking for that had been provided to you by Detective Falk, do you know how he came up with those items?
It came from the interviews that were being conducted.
And just to be clear, you've gone from the Wake Forest Walmart back and forth to the police department and are now in Oxford. At that point, to your knowledge, were some folks speaking with either this defendant and or Ronald Anthony?
Yes, ma'am.
When you went out there, were you able to collect the items that you were looking for?
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Approach with this box. I want to first turn your attention to something you testified earlier about that I neglected to show you, which I'm going to mark as State's Exhibit 50. Do you recognize at least the outside of it and its markings?
I do.
And if you could open up State's Exhibit 50. and mark the inside contents as 50A. Do you recognize 50A?
I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 50A?
It is the pink jewelry box that I found along that chain link fence that divides I-40 from the city street.
And I think earlier you said it wasn't on the first day that you walked around the premises, but on the second day, which was a couple days later. Is that
Correct.
right?
Correct.
Next, I want to show you what I'll mark as State's Exhibit 51 and ask if you recognize 51.
I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 51?
This is a black T-shirt that I got from Amber Elbert's home. This was taken from the bedroom of Amber Elbert and Ronald Anthony.
State's Exhibit 51, was that one of the specific items that you were sent to look for, do you recall?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you collected it, do you know how it got in that bag?
I placed it in the bag.
And after placing it in the bag, what did you do with the bag?
I fill out the preset markers right here that has the Raleigh Police Department, a case number, the offense, an item number, suspect, victim, date and time of the recovery, who recovered it, and the description of the item.
And after it's all of that's on there, do you seal it?
I do.
And once it's sealed, what do you do with it?
It's placed into the Raleigh Police evidence locker.
In addition to the markings that you've described, does it seem to have additional markings consistent with processing?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you next State's Exhibit 52. Ask if you recognize that.
I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 52?
This is a burgundy hibachi restaurant T-shirt that I seized from Amber Elbert's residence from the master bedroom.
And again, similarly, did you mark it and seal it like you described in 51?
Yes, ma'am.
And does it also appear to have additional markings consistent with processing?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to show you now State's Exhibit 53 and ask if you recognize State's Exhibit 53.
I do.
And what is that?
This is a black thermal shirt that I found at Amber Elbert's residence. It was in a book bag in the bedroom from the home in Oxford.
And similar, did you package it as you've described the others?
Yes, ma'am.
And does it also appear to have been processed and have additional markings on it?
Yes, ma'am.
State's Exhibit 54, ask if you recognize that item.
I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 54?
This is a burgundy T-shirt with a white logo. I seized this from Amber Elbert's bedroom at the home in Oxford.
And again, did you package it consistent with the way you've described earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
And does it also appear to have been processed?
Yes, ma'am.
State's Exhibit 55, ask if you recognize 55.
I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 55?
This is a burgundy T-shirt, and again, I got this from Amber Elbert's bedroom at the home in Oxford.
Packaging consistent with the manner you've described?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, does it look like it's been processed also that allowed?
Yes, ma'am.
State's Exhibit 56.
This is a Chicago Bulls hat. I got this from the top of the dresser from Amber Elbert's bedroom.
And similarly, does it appear to have been processed and have additional markings than the one you put on there?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you seal it once you were finished collecting it?
I did.
And lastly, State's Exhibit 57, ask if you recognize that.
I do.
And what is State's Exhibit 57?
These are a pair of blue and black Nike sneakers. I got these from the living room on the floor in front of the couch, and this was at Amber Elbert's residence.
And similarly, you described that Detective Falk had listed some items that he was looking for. Were you looking for these shoes as well?
Yes, ma'am.
And once you collected the shoes, did you seal them consistent with your signature and the date on the top?
Yes, ma'am.
And once you sealed all of these items, State's Exhibit 50 through 57, where did they go, or what did you do with them?
They go in a Raleigh Police evidence locker.
And once you take them to a Raleigh Police evidence locker, who would have access to these items?
Only Raleigh Police evidence personnel.
After you sealed each of those individual items that you either collected at the Oxford residence or the Wake Forest in Oxford residence, or that jewelry box that you found at outside of Melissa's home, did you have any further responsibilities with any of those items?
No, ma'am.
Do each of those appear to have been processed in some way?
Yes, ma'am.
After going to the residence there in Granville County, did you have any further responsibilities that evening or that, I guess now early morning?
No, ma'am.
And during the time that, for example, detectives are down at the Raleigh Police Department, now we're talking May 21st into the 22nd, are you in communication about the information that they're finding out from their interviews?
Yes, ma'am.
And are you keeping them abreast of, for example, the things that you found there?
Absolutely.
After finishing up with the search out of county, did you have any additional responsibilities in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what was the next thing you were asked to do?
The following day, I canceled the NCIC entries for the stolen computers
And why was that?
because they'd been located.
And to be clear, the NCIC, is that database you were talking about earlier?
Correct, a national database.
Did there come a time when... Did there come a time when you spoke with Amber again?
Yes, ma'am.
And why was it that you spoke with her again?
On May 31st, she had called me. She wanted, one, to give me her new address, and two, let me know that she found a iPod while she was packing up her belongings that was labeled Claire's iPod, and she knew it wasn't hers.
And what, if anything, did you do when she indicated that she had an iPod that didn't belong to her?
I asked to meet with her to collect that item.
Where did you meet with her to collect that item?
I met with her at the Walmart in Wake Forest in the parking lot.
And did she provide that iPod to you?
She did. I met with her on June 3rd.
When she indicated to you that the screen said, or that it said Claire's iPod, did that have any importance to you?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell us why that was?
Because one of the victims of a car break-in is Claire Reynolds, and she had reported that her iPod had been stolen.
When she had reported that her iPod had been stolen earlier that week, or I guess maybe it's almost been over a week at this point, was she able to describe that iPod?
She was.
And do you recall the description that she gave?
Purple, and it had some damage, cracked, or some tape applied to it. It was very distinctive.
And when you looked at the iPod that Alberts brought to you, was it consistent with the description that Ms. Reynolds had given you?
Yes, ma'am.
And may I read that?
Yes.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 14 containing 14A and 14B that Ms. Reynolds already identified. Do you recognize those items?
I do.
And is this the iPod, looking at the envelope marked 14, is this the exact iPod that Ms. Alberts gave to you at the parking lot there in Walmart?
It is.
And other than opening it here for court, does it appear to be in the same condition as when you collected it?
Yes, ma'am.
Which is not a very good condition, I guess. But.
Correct.
Your Honor, this time the state would move to introduce State's Exhibit 14 containing 14A and 14B.
Any objection? 14 is allowed, A and B.
And to be clear, looking at this, does it appear to just have Raleigh police markings on it? No further processing done in this case?
No processing.
When you met with Ms. Alberts there to receive the iPod, did you talk to her about when she had first seen it or when she had seen it prior to moving?
I did speak to her about the circumstances of her getting it and when she'd seen it, yes.
Okay. And did she indicate who she had seen using that prior to returning it over to you?
She did.
And who was that?
Travion.
Oh, Did you have any further responsibilities in this case after that time?
I did.
And what were those?
I'd been contacted by a couple of different insurance companies verifying some information.
Okay. And is that common in a death investigation with insurance companies to kind of figure out what's going on?
Nearly every case, yes, ma'am.
And do you give them the information that you're allowed to give them?
Yes, ma'am.
Just to be clear about the shoes that are there in front of you, was those one of the items that Detective Falk had specifically asked you to look for?
Yes, ma'am.
And they were not in the bedroom, if I recall your testimony, they were in the living room?
Correct. Living room floor in front of the couch.
And was that something that you stumbled upon, or would you ask, for example, going off your list, Ms. Alberts, to help you find certain items?
We searched the residence extensively as far as opening up all the bedroom drawers, under the mattress, in little boxes, everywhere. And after we couldn't locate some of these items, I mentioned to Amber, I'm looking for this. And she, okay, those are over there. Absolutely.
And the jewelry box itself, or what you refer to as the pink jewelry box, how far away would you say it was from Miss Huggins-Jones' apartment?
It is across the street from Ramblewood Drive. It is a, if I remember correctly, a 2-lane city street. There is a grassy area maintained by the city of Raleigh, probably 15, 20 feet wide. Then there's a state DOT chain link fence, and it was on the other side of the chain link fence, on the highway side.
Can I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I want to show you State's Exhibit 5, which we've been using as sort of an aerial view of the Allister apartments at the time of the homicide. And I don't know if using this you could show us, this has been identified as Ms. Melissa's apartment building, where you found those items.
Sure. Ramblewood Drive's right here, obviously I-40, and the off-ramp from I-40 onto Six Forks Road, I-40 being up here. I found that pink jewelry box. There's a chain link fence that runs along the highway right here. You see it's wooden, or brick, excuse me, but it changed to chain link for the remainder of Ramblewood Drive, and it would have been right about in this area here.
And just to be clear, if you're talking about a fence separating Melissa's apartment complex, say from I-40, was it on the Melissa side or on the side across away and more towards I-40?
It was on the I-440,
I-440 side.
440 side of the chain link fence.
Thank you, Detective Morse. I don't have further questions.
Cross-examination, Ms. D.
Detective Morse, we heard a little bit earlier about, and a little bit more when you testified about the fact that these cases are sort of handled by one of the 2 homicide teams.
Yes, ma'am.
And that there are 5 of you on that homicide team.
Yes, ma'am.
And that then that's oftentimes the case that then other people within the department or other departments and other agencies will help you over the course of the investigation.
Absolutely.
And that sort of throughout the investigation there would be meetings with different groups of people, people that were on your team and other people that were helping with the investigation.
Correct.
And I think that the answer you gave during direct was that absolutely that's part of the process, and that sharing of information and sort of documenting the case moving forward is sort of how that process works.
Yes, ma'am.
So I wanted to just ask you about a few areas that you worked on specifically during the course of the investigation. I think the first thing that one of the very first things you talked about was the fact that you were involved in going to the autopsy.
Correct, I was.
And that sexual assault kit was collected there.
Yes, ma'am.
And at some point, did you become aware of what the results of that had been?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was that?
No semen was located.
And part of that kit is the gathering of fingernail and toenail clippings?
No, the fingernail clippings are in addition. It's not a standard collection with the sexual assault kit.
But that's something that was requested specifically in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And was gathered initially as part of that initial process?
Yes, ma'am.
And is there a reason that those are sometimes considered to be important, or?
Absolutely. If the victim is engaged in a physical contact with the defendant or suspect, it's possible that they can collect skin cells, blood, tissue underneath their fingernails.
And that's why that's collected along with the other evidence in the sexual assault kit?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were one of, and I wrote down all the names, but there were 4 of you that went out to the home in Oxford. Is that right? You and Detective Gill. And
Yes, ma'am.
I want to say Sergeant, but I might be wrong, Cashwell, and the deputy from Granville County.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told us a little bit more about that at the end, but can you sort of start by telling us, like, normally when a search warrant is executed, I mean, you don't have to go into great detail, but sort of what's that process look like?
It actually varies depending on the cooperation of the people who are at that house or own that house. At this point, Amber and Michelle are being very cooperative with us. I have no reason to believe that they were not being truthful with us at this point. And when we went to their home, obviously it's late at night, there's children, we tried to be as less disruptive as possible, and Amber was accommodating, obviously allowed us to search even though we had the legal authority to search her residence, but was also helpful as, I don't know whose that is, I've never seen that before.
Okay. And this home, did you complete any sort of diagrams to show where the different items were found in the home during the search?
No, ma'am, I documented it on the evidence bag itself, the room that I collected it from.
And that's all the information that you specifically gave us just now about where things were found?
Correct.
And can you just give us a sort of a brief sense of what type of home it was?
Small home, 2 bedrooms, as best I can recall. Michelle had one room and Amber had the other, a living room, a kitchen.
Did you walk into the living room?
I believe I walked into a mud room that had a washer and dryer, and then from there I'm into the kitchen, opens up to a large living room, and the bedrooms are in the back corners.
Okay. And one bedroom, you said in your descriptions, which are written on the bags, that one of the items was found in the master bedroom.
Correct. All these items, aside from the shoes, were found in what I labeled the master bedroom, Amber Albert's room.
So the room that Joey and Michelle lived in was nothing found in there? Was nothing searched in there?
Nothing was searched. We had no reason to believe that anything was in there. We found the items that we were looking for in Amber's bedroom as well as the living room.
And so as far as the designations on those bags go, Amber Albert's bedroom and master bedroom are interchangeable?
Correct.
And it was your understanding that that's the room that Amber Alberts and Ron stayed in?
That was my understanding, yes.
And the only item not from there was the sneakers.
Correct.
They were in the living room, and Amber helped you find them.
Amber directed us to him, yes.
And were you the person who actually, I mean, were you the person she handed the sneakers to, or do you remember
She
it
didn't
was
hand
somebody
us.
else?
She didn't hand us anything. It was
Okay.
it was more of a point of, I'm looking for these shoes. Oh, I think they're right here in the living room.
Okay. Got my approach?
Yes.
I'm going to show you 3 pictures, which I
Mhm.
managed to number sort of backwards. I believe that the way you're looking at them, they're numbered defense 7, 6, and 5.
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Absolutely. So- And do you recognize those?
I do. They appear to be the same shoes.
May I approach?
Yes.
Okay.
Those are the shoes that you picked up in the living room that day,
They appear to be the same ones, yes.
and they're the ones that are in that bag that's right here? No, they're right there. And they are state number 57.
Well, I don't know who took the photographs. I don't know if they came from this box or from this bag. So for
They
me to
appear to be
say,
the same.
they appear to be the same.
Okay. And you're not sure what the CCBI number was, so if you look right here in the CCBI picture, the CCBI number is also on the bag.
Number 80.
And does that appear to be the same?
Yes, ma'am.
And all of the items that you collected from the Oxford residence, you've noted for us all that some of them had further processing, some of them did not have any further processing. Is that accurate according to the bags?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us what you did with them after you packaged them?
I placed them into a Raleigh police evidence locker, and that was the only thing I had to do with those items at that point, and from this case forward.
So anybody who did anything further, or placed any of those additional labels on, you don't know who any of those individuals
No, ma'am.
were?
Redirect, Ms. Shakita.
I do, and I neglected to ask you this, I'm sorry. Detective Morse, do you recall seeing a camera that was seized at the residence as well?
There were numerous other electronic items. I can't recall specifically without having it here in front of me.
Yes.
Approach and show you State's Exhibit 26 that was previously identified by Miss Lee of the Kane Realty. Do you recall seeing this? I know it's not in your handwriting.
Not specifically.
And do
no.
you know whose handwriting this is?
It appears to be retired Detective Dexter Gill.
And was he out there at the scene with you as well?
Yes, ma'am.
But you said that you seized quite a bit of electronics.
We did.
I don't have any further questions.
Anything further? Ms. D?
I'm sorry, no.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down. Any objection to this witness being released?
No, sir.
Sir, you're released from your subpoena and you are free to go. Is there further evidence for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, at this time, the state would call Mr. Michael McCollum to the stand.
All right, well, Mr. McComb's coming. I'll be glad to review some of those.
Maybe we have just a moment.
Yes.
McCullum, good afternoon, sir. Will you please state your name for the record?
My name is Michael Rashad McCullum.
Okay. And Mr. McCullum, do me a big favor, sir. Make sure you pull up to that microphone.
Yes, sir.
So that all the members of the jury can hear what you're saying, okay? Okay. Can you spell your last name for us?
McCollum.
And Mr. McCullum, where do you live?
Currently, I stay right here in Southside Raleigh downtown, 1110 South Bloodworth.
And back in May,
1110 South Bloodworth.
back in May of 2013, where were you residing at that point, sir?
608 South Main Street, Wake Forest, North Carolina, 27606, I believe.
And what kind of residence was that, Mr. McCullum? Were you living there by yourself, or there were other people in the home with you?
It was a apartment complex. Me and my fiance stayed together, and our 2 children. Also, multiple other people stayed in this apartment complex. It's more of a brothel, bed and breakfast.
And what was the name of the, did it used to be a hotel?
Yes, it's called the Franklin Inn. It's owned by Roger Franklin.
And Mr. McCullum, what kind of work do you do, sir?
I fix computers for a living, but at this point in time, I was doing commercial construction, hardwood flooring.
Back in May of 2013?
Yes, sir.
Mr. McCullum, I want to talk to you a little bit about how you know several of the people involved in the case, okay?
Okay.
We'll start with the defendant, Travion Smith. How do you know him, sir?
I only met him one time, and that was in exchange with a laptop, the silver one.
So,
I do not know him personally.
Did you know an acquaintance of his?
Yes, I did.
Who's that?
Ronald Anthony.
Tell us how you know Ronald Anthony.
I initially met Ronald Anthony at a hotel that I was staying at in Raleigh called the Wake Inn, I believe. I stayed there for a couple of days, and we had crossed paths, exchanged numbers, and that was pretty much it. A few months later, he contacted me through the same phone number that I had given him and told me that he had a couple of electronic items for sale.
And we'll get to that
Okay, yes, sir.
in just a minute. But, so was it in 2013 when you met Ronald?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the earlier part, we're
Yes,
talking
sir.
about May of 2013. That was earlier in 2013 when you met Ronald Anthony?
Well, let me recollect. I believe it may have been 2012 when I initially met Ronald. I believe it was in July or so.
How often would you and Ronald hang out?
At that point in time, not often at all. I just knew of him.
What was the nature of your relationship? We got friends, business partners. Tell us a little bit about
He was a young man that I saw that had been through some of the same type of struggles that I had been through, and I had took an interest in him as a friend.
So y'all were just friends?
Yes.
Okay. How about the name Sarah Redden?
Never met her before ever.
And how about Amber Alberts? Do you know
Amber, yes, I know Amber.
How do you know Amber?
As Ronald's girlfriend.
And do you know how long they've been dating?
Not sure at all.
How many times did you met Amber and Ronald together?
Together, maybe 2 or 3.
And anything about the relationship with Amber? Was it a friendly relationship you had with her also?
Yes, absolutely.
You all ever have any kind of disagreements,
Not at all.
quarrels, or anything like that?
No.
Between meeting Ronald and Anthony in July of 2012 and then leading up into May of 2013, about how many times would you say y'all saw each other?
Probably less than 10.
And you said that y'all had exchanged numbers at some point?
Yes, this was earlier in 2012.
And how about Amber? Did you exchange numbers with her as well, or communicate with Ronald?
Yes, Ronald had would use her phone often. So at one point in time, I had just pretty much used Amber's number as Ronald's because they were a couple, and every time I saw her number, I would say it was him.
And do you recall, Mr. McCullum, Amber Albert's exact cell phone number?
I know that it started with 919-805.
And don't remember the other number?
9-something-4, maybe. I can't remember exactly.
When you saw that number pop up on your phone, generally who did you think it was that was contacting you?
Ronald.
Mr. McCullum, I want to turn your attention specifically to May of 2013. Is that when you were living there at the Franklin Inn?
Yes, sir.
And who were you living with at that time, sir?
Me, my fiance, Chandrea, and my 2 children, Amari and Jaden.
And you said that there were a bunch of people kind of living in this apartment. Did you have a room?
Not an apartment person. My apartment was personal, but it was apartment units around me, one straight across and one on the right door in my same area on the floor that I was on. It's multiple on other floors as well. It's 3 floors on the Franklin Inn, and most of them have 3 to 5 apartments on them.
But you had your own,
Yes, sir.
personal room. Okay. You said a moment ago that Mr. Anthony contacted you at some point there in May of 2013. Do you recall approximately when he contacted you?
I would say it had to be somewhere in between the 14th of May, maybe the 16th, anywhere between there. I was working. I was in Goldsboro.
And tell me about that. What were you doing in Goldsboro?
I worked in the Dark Cherry Hill prison, putting their floors down, doing VCT tile.
And when you say Ronald Anthony contacted you, how did he contact you?
He gave me a phone call.
And I don't want you to tell me everything he said, but what was the general nature of this phone call?
That he had 2 Lenovo laptops that he was trying to sell, and that to get in contact with him when I could.
Did you contact Mr. Anthony?
It slipped my mind for a few days, but I did call him maybe 3 or 4 days later and said, "What's up with the what's up with the laptops, man?"
Did he describe these laptops to you?
He eventually he described them to me. I thought they were older Lenovo's, and I told him that those were outdated and I couldn't repair them or do anything with them. He told me that they were newer Lenovo's and that they were good.
When you say that they were good, what do you mean by that?
That they weren't stolen or anything was wrong with them at all. He just said that he was trying to get rid of them, but it just didn't sit right with me.
Why didn't it sit right with you at that point, Mr. McCollum?
2 new laptops, less than a year old. Just, it was kind of iffy, but I trusted him because I had purchased things from him before.
And you said you'd known Ronald Anthony for, I guess, about a year.
About a year at this time.
Point. Did you know him to have a job or any kind of fun income coming in?
Maybe once I had heard of him working, but not frequent, like a consistent thing. No.
And you mentioned we maybe have one of the old Lenovo laptops here in front of us, but can you see there in front of you
Yes.
on the witness stand, those appear to be newer,
Yes, sir.
Lenovo's. And based on, you said you've done some selling of computers, work on computers, and what type of money would a newer Lenovo like the one in front of you?
Newer, maybe slightly used, would probably go in the range of $600 to $800.
So when Mr. Anthony let you know that was the type of computer or laptop that he had, and that kind of sparked your interest?
Yes, it did.
How did, well, you said that you contacted him a few days later and you were interested in the laptop, selling laptops. Tell us about that.
I called him and I said, "Hey, Ron, what's up with the laptops? Told me that you had them for me. I haven't heard from you almost a week. Give me a call." He didn't respond to that. That was a voicemail. He gave me a call maybe 2 hours later and told me that he was sending me pictures. Maybe 30 minutes or so later, he sent me those pictures.
And what did you do with those pictures once you saw them, or once you saw those pictures? Let me ask you this way: what did you decide to do?
He sent me pictures of the orange laptop, and I saw that it was up and running, maybe needed cleaning or repair, viruses or whatever. So I took the pictures and I posted them directly to Craigslist.
To be clear, Mr. McCollum, did you do that on your own, or was that something that Ronald Anthony directed you to do?
I was selling the laptop per se for them. I would, of course, make a commission off of that, but it was for them, yes.
Well, let me ask you about that. Did you and Ronald Anthony make some arrangement as to how he was going to be paid, how you were going to be paid, how you were going to split the money?
I told them that I would take the laptops from them. At that point in time, I was trustworthy, and that when the laptops were paid, somebody had purchased them, I would reimburse them for the price that they wanted for them.
And when you say they, at this point, are you just communicating with Ronald Anthony?
At that point in time, I was only Ronald, yes.
Go ahead.
I knew nothing of Travion at that point in time.
And again, to be clear, Mr. McCollum, this conversation or this text message, was it text messages or actual phone calls?
The initial contact was a phone call, but the rest of that afterwards were text messages, picture messages.
And when those picture messages came to your phone, whose phone were they being sent from?
Amber Alberts.
And did you recognize it being Amber's phone number like you described?
Yes, sir.
Earlier? Okay. Tell us about how you went about putting those photographs on Craigslist.
Well, maybe 20, 30 minutes after I got the pictures, I just put them directly on Craigslist because I thought the laptop was coming to me after the fact that I had gotten the pictures. So I put the laptop pictures up maybe 5:30 p.m. and by 7 I was getting a phone call.
And so at this point, to be clear, you didn't actually have the laptop.
No,
in your
sir.
hand. When was Ronald Anthony supposed to provide you with that laptop?
He told me that he would be there the following day with the laptop that morning.
And is this the date of, you said you weren't sure of the exact date, but does May 20th sound about right?
It's about approximate.
That you received?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, that you received the text messages?
Yes, it's approximate. It's about correct, yes. Can't recall. It was so much of a blur that I can't recall the exact day.
But then the next day is the day that he was actually going to deliver this?
Yes, sir.
So you said, how much did you ask for on the Craigslist posting for the laptop?
If I recall correctly, I believe I asked for $800.
Why $800?
I knew that that would be a feasible price to get started with people on Craigslist. Of course, people lowball. I do a lot of Craigslist buying and selling. So I put it for $800, hopefully to shoot for $550, and make a decent profit for myself and also for them.
And you said at this point that you didn't have the laptops, but then you all of a sudden got a call.
I got a call, it had to be maybe 10, 11 that morning, from Amber's cell phone, thinking that it was Ronald and it was Travion.
Let me back up. I'm sorry. Let me
Okay,
back up.
sure.
You post the laptop.
Yes, sir.
And then you say that you got a call to.
Yes, let's rewind. I'm sorry. I got a call maybe about 7 o'clock that evening about this laptop from a guy saying that he would like to purchase it, and he wanted to purchase it for $800, free and clear, which in that line of work it seems kind of fishy.
Why?
Because no one ever offers you exactly what you want for a laptop on Craigslist, ever.
So when this person, we now know is Detective Morris, offered you $800 for the laptop, did kind of some red flags go up at that
It
point?
scared me to death. I took the posting down and I called Ronald instantly and said, "What's going on?"
Did he respond?
No response at all.
And when you say no response, did he not answer your phone call, or did he not answer any questions regarding what was on the laptop?
No phone call, no text, nothing. No answer at all.
So he never delivered the laptop, and at that point wouldn't return your phone calls.
Correct.
How many times would you say you attempted to contact Ronald Anthony to figure out what was going on with this laptop?
I believe that I contacted him again that night. I'm not sure if I talked to him that night or the next morning about the situation, but we did talk.
And did you ask him about what was going on with the laptops at that point?
Yes.
Okay. What was his response?
He told me that they were hot. He told me that there was something, he had did something with those laptops. Would not tell me specifically what he did, but he told me that they shouldn't have been on Craigslist.
You go into any other detail?
No, sir.
Now, in regards to the person that responded to the Craigslist posting, did y'all make a plan to meet up and
Yes.
sell the laptop?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I talked to the guy. He said he wanted to buy the laptop free and clear, $800, and he asked where we could meet, and I told him that we would meet in Walmart's parking lot.
And when was this meeting to occur? Mr.
That
McCollum?
evening sometime, maybe an hour later or so.
And why'd you tell him you would meet him at that point?
I told him that because I really did want to sell the laptop, but after I got off the phone, something just did not sit right with me, and I didn't go.
So did you ever even attempt to go to the Walmart?
No, sir.
And did you even have the laptop?
No, sir.
did you call the potential buyer back and let them know that you talked to him at a later date or anything like that, or just left it alone?
Just left it alone, sir.
And you said Mr. Anthony or Ronald Anthony contacted you at some other point, and you had this conversation with him about them being hot, and you don't recall if it was that night or the next morning?
Correct.
Now, you mentioned a moment ago that you had a conversation with Travion Smith.
Yes.
How, now, going back to your initial part of your statement here, you didn't know Travion up until this point?
Up until that point, I did not know him.
Okay, well, how did he contact you on the next morning, May 21st?
That morning started as any normal morning. I got a phone call. I thought it was Ronald. Told him, "What's up, man?" And it was not Ronald. It was Travion. And he told me that he was at Walmart at Amber's job, and if I could possibly come and pick him up, and he had the laptop, the gray one.
Okay.
Which I was not expecting the gray one at all. I was only expecting the orange one, but I didn't know of the gray one.
I'm sorry?
I did know of the gray one, but I was not expecting it at all. I was expecting the orange one.
You did or did not know of the gray one?
I did not. I knew of the gray one, but I was not expecting it.
Okay. All right. When Travion
Correct.
contacted you, thought you were still in the orange laptop?
Correct.
You say it was Travion that contacted you. How did he identify himself?
As my friend, I'm Ronald Anthony's friend, Taz's friend. Excuse me, I'm gonna say exactly how. I'm Taz's friend, which is Ronald's. Yes.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's fine. All right, hold on just a second. Members of the jury, I may ask to step in the deliberation room for a moment. Please leave your notepads in your chairs, and don't speculate or concern yourself about what's occurring in the courtroom. Don't talk about the case. All right, outside the presence of the jury, sir, do you have something in your hand? I'd like you to hand whatever you have in your...
I do apologize for the trial. I have this recording device. This is a cell phone.
All right.
That did not record anything.
Okay.
I'm willing to tell you only anything else, but it's not a recording.
Yes, sir. I recognize you, and what I'll ask you to do is if you'll step outside with the deputy and let him satisfy himself that everything's fine. All right, sir? All right, ladies and gentlemen, again, there is no need to concern yourself about matters that occurred outside of your presence. We just want to make sure that everybody's attention is focused on the important matters that are being presented in this courtroom. So with that being said, you go ahead with your question, Mr. Waller.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. McCollum.
No problem.
Let's go to the end of May 20th, 2013. Just, I know we got interrupted there a little
Okay.
bit. May 20th of 2013, that's when you were supposed to meet the potential buyer at the Walmart parking lot.
Yes, sir.
All right. And you didn't go there that night?
Not at all.
Okay. Now, to be clear, at this point, you can't recall whether or not you spoke with Ronald Anthony that night or the next morning regarding the orange laptop?
That is correct.
Now let's go to May 21st, 2013, which is, I believe, where we were before
Yes.
before we stopped there. You said you received a phone call from Travion Smith.
Yes, sir.
Did you recognize the number that he was calling from?
Yes, sir.
How did you recognize that number?
It was Amber Albert's telephone number.
You said when you answered, you expected it to be Ronald,
Correct. Because that's who usually called from that phone number.
but it wasn't.
It was not.
Who was it?
It was Travion Smith.
And how did Travion Smith identify himself to you at that point?
That he was Taz's, Ronald's friend, and he had the gray laptop. He would like to come and see me, or come and pick him up at Walmart, and that was pretty much where I made my decision to send my fiance to go and pick him up from Walmart.
What time was it when you heard from Travion Smith, approximately?
Not sure. I knew it was early in the day. It was before noon. I would say about 10:30, 11 o'clock.
You mentioned a name a second ago that I don't believe we've heard before. Taz?
Taz.
Who is Taz?
Taz is Ronald.
Is Ronald Anthony?
Yes.
And is that his nickname?
That's his nickname.
When Travion Smith identified himself to you, did he identify himself as Travion Smith, or did he use a nickname?
Trey. If that, I believe that's what I recall.
Mr. McCollum, you said at this point you didn't know Travion Smith. Why did you go ahead and agree to meet with him to do this deal with the laptop?
I knew of the laptop. I knew that there was another. Ronald had told me that his friend had the other one, but he wasn't sure if that one would be included in me selling. So I never thought about it again. That morning was the first time that I knew that I was going to encounter a gray laptop as well, gray Lenovo.
You said he wanted to meet at the Walmart there in Wake Forest?
He wanted me to come and pick him up and bring him back to me, because I wasn't driving at this point in time. I had my children at home, and I just sent my fiance to go and get them.
And tell us how that went. Did she go get him?
Her and another neighbor in the Franklin Inn drove with her to the Walmart. I made sure, because she was picking up a guy, I made sure it was at least someone else in the car with her. And they went and picked him up and brought him back to me.
What type of car were they driving, Mr. McCollum?
My 2000 Mitsubishi Eclipse GT.
So they bring him back?
They brought him back.
What happened when Travion Smith arrived back at the Franklin Inn?
When he arrived back and came into my room, he had a grayish black backpack with him. Inside the backpack was the laptop.
Anything else you see in that backpack at that point, sir?
Not that I recall.
And tell us a little bit about, he walks in the door, and what do y'all start talking about?
Pretty much nothing, just greeted him. I looked at the laptop. I told him how much I could give him up front right then for the laptop until I sold it. And my fiance took him somewhere in Wake Forest to take care of business within himself, whatever it was. And he came back. We smoked some marijuana. And after that, he left.
All right, let's go back. So he's got the gray laptop in the book bag, in the bag, and y'all start talking about a price for it.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about that.
I told him that I could give him about $50 up front. I recall that's what I gave him. And that was pretty much it on the conversation about the laptop. He knew pretty much how much I was going to try to sell it for, I guess through Ronald Anthony. He never really discussed that with me.
Did you tell him?
It seemed like he was just ready to get rid of it. That's it.
And why do you say that, Mr. McCollum?
Objection.
Sustained as to the form of the question.
You said it seemed like he wanted to get rid of the laptop.
Yes, sir.
What was Travion Smith doing that made you feel like he was trying to get rid of the laptop?
Nothing really, but something about, I mean.
Hold on. Overruled as to that question. You may answer.
Okay. It just, because the laptop's a Lenovo, it's a $1,000 laptop, and you will take $50 for it right now. It's just bringing up too many bells and whistles for me. So I knew that it had to be something not right. I didn't think that they were stolen in the way that they were stolen, or stolen at all.
All right. I'm going to allow you to answer the question that was asked, which I believe, what made you think that he wanted?
What was he doing?
What was he doing that made you think that he wanted to get rid of it?
Nothing physical at all.
You mentioned about the $1,000.
Correct.
And he was willing to take $50.
Exactly.
Did you tell Travion Smith at this point how much you were going to list the laptop for?
I can't recall that conversation at all. It has been a while.
But he was satisfied with the $50.
At that point in time, yes.
Did you tell him you would give him more money later on, or
Yes, sir.
how much were you going to give him later on?
I believe I said $250. I can't be correctly or 100% sure on that, but I believe that's what I offered.
And was he agreeable to that price?
Absolutely.
And to that negotiation?
Absolutely.
And you said at this point that Travion Smith left?
My fiance and her friend took him back to Walmart.
Okay. And then he came back later?
No,
Okay.
that was the last time I seen him in person.
So he only left your apartment
Once.
one time?
Well, no, he left twice.
Okay.
My fiance took him somewhere in Wake Forest, maybe 20 minutes. He came back, stayed with me about a half an hour, and then he left completely, never came back.
And why did he leave that first time?
I guess he went to go get marijuana, maybe with.
Sustain, don't speculate. If you know, you can answer, but don't guess.
I'm not sure, but.
Motion's
I'm sorry.
allowed, jurors to disregard the last response.
Other than negotiating the price for the laptop on the first encounter, did you do anything else there with him at that time?
No.
How long would you say Travion Smith was there with you that first time he was there with you?
Maybe about 40 minutes.
And then he left with your fiance again?
Yes.
Did Travion tell you where he was going at that point?
Not really. I can't recall.
But then he came back.
Yes, sir.
How long was he gone with your fiance at that time?
Maybe about 20, 30 minutes tops.
And when he came back, what did y'all do?
Smoke some marijuana.
How long was he there with you that time when you were smoking marijuana?
Maybe about the same amount of time, half an hour, 40 minutes.
Where did the marijuana come from when he came back the second time?
I believe that he purchased it on his outing.
Sustain, just sustain, rephrase the question.
Whose marijuana was it the second time?
Travion.
All right. And did you have marijuana on you at that point?
No.
So when he came back the second time, he had the marijuana in his one.
Yes.
Did you talk about the laptops at any other point during the second conversation?
It may have been a possibility, but nothing about money or exchanging anything.
After you finished smoking marijuana, you said he left again.
Yes.
Who do you leave with at that point?
My fiance and her friend that stayed on the second floor.
And did Travion Smith tell you where he was going at that point, what he was going to do?
No, we were just taking him back to Walmart.
And did you ever see Travion Smith after that, again, that day?
No.
What happened after he left? Did you do anything with the laptops at this point, Mr. McCollum?
No, I set the laptop down. I had cleaned it while he was there. Seemed to be working correctly. And I sat it down next to my bed.
What do you mean you cleaned it?
Refreshed the computer to its normal factory state and put it down.
Did you have to do anything with any passwords or get into the computer in any way?
Not that I recall, no. I believe it was a button on the side that you could hard reset this thing, and I believe Travion did that for me. I knew nothing of these laptops or how to repair them at this point in time. It was my first time ever seeing this type.
Staying on May 21st, after Travion Smith leaves your apartment, what happened later on that day?
I was, the Wake Forest Police Department came in, I guess had a search warrant for my premises and arrested me and took my fiance, her friend, down for questioning to the Atlantic Avenue homicide.
And what were you arrested for that day?
Possession of stolen goods.
What was the stolen good that you
The gray laptop.
When you were arrested and went down to the police station, did you give a statement?
Yes,
You recall giving a statement to Detective Falk with the Raleigh Police Department?
correct.
What did you tell Detective Falk on that day?
Pretty much all of that. I knew that Travion had brought me this laptop, and if you were looking for whatever you were looking for, because I didn't know anything of a murder or anything at this point in time, whatever you were looking for, they have it. I got it from Travion.
And you told this jury here about the orange laptop.
Correct.
Did
I
you
had-
tell them about that? Detective Falk about the orange laptop?
Yes, and they asked me about the orange laptop as well. Asked me where is the orange laptop. I told them that I had never had it in my possession. That Ronald had sent me picture messages the prior night for the laptop, and I had put them on Craigslist.
While you were being processed down at the Wake County Jail, at that point, going into May 22nd of 2013, did you have the opportunity to observe Ronald Anthony and Travion Smith?
Yes.
Starting with Ronald Anthony, when you saw him, what was his general demeanor like at that time?
He was distraught, remorseful, like he knew that he had done something wrong.
Sustain. Just juries to disregard. Just describe what you physically observed.
What did you see about Ronald Anthony?
And an emotional downness. Let's just put it like that.
Did you have the opportunity to see Travion Smith on that early morning hour as well?
Correct.
Describe Travion Smith's demeanor when you saw him that morning as well.
I was in a holding cell. We had split me, Travion, and Ronald up. I was in a holding cell with other individuals being processed, and they had brought Travion in, I guess, to use the phone in this holding cell, and all I saw was blankness in his eye. He was smiling, pretty much talking about his baby mother, crying about him being involved in a murder. That's all I saw.
He appeared to be showing any remorse, crying, anything like that?
None at all.
Objection. You answered the question.
Overruled.
He appeared to show no remorse.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes. We're going to take a break unless you're about to wrap up with direct.
It'll take notes.
All right, let's go ahead and take a break until 5 minutes past 4. Jury, please recall all the instructions I've given you. If you will gather in the deliberation room at that time, everyone else please remain seated. And please leave all your materials in your chairs. Again, 5 minutes past 4 in the deliberation room. We need to take up for recess for a few minutes.
No, sir.
All right, we'll be in recess then until 4:05.